Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name's Holden Blaze, and today we need to talk about what exactly is happening in the crypto market. We're currently sitting at a 22 on the Fear and Greed Index, and I'm seeing a ton of FUD in the markets right now. A lot of people are uncertain for the future, and some people are leaving these markets completely. I personally think that is a very silly thing to do because, quite frankly, Bitcoin is doing what it always does historically. If we look at the months of August and September for Bitcoin, they are historically the worst 2 months. This aligns very well with what's happening in 2024. We are seeing a slump in Q3 and the summer months. And if we look at the Bitcoin quarterly returns over time, we have to note that Q3 is by far the worst of any quarter. This means that there's really nothing to freak out about. Bitcoin's doing the same thing it always does. It cools off in the summer months, it gets wrecked in September, and then what does it do after that? Well, in Q4, Bitcoin tends to rocket ship, going up an average of 88% plus in Q4 alone. Even the median is at 57%, and this obviously would be fantastic for Bitcoin. I personally think that this year will be very similar to what we've seen in the past. Given the fact we've had a bad Q3, I personally think we're setting up for a very monumental Q4. We have historical data on our side for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. If we look at Ethereum here, Q3 is also the worst quarter for Ethereum in general, and it tends to do pretty well in Q4, but especially well in Q1. This makes sense because Bitcoin tends to lead the pack in bull markets until alt season begins. Bitcoin will run up first. However, there will be a point that Bitcoin stops producing huge percentage returns. At that point, alt season will start and people will swap to things like Ethereum and other altcoins. And that is why Ethereum performs better in Q1 than Q4. Again, I think it's silly to try to inverse past history. If we just follow these historical trends, Bitcoin is set for a very monumental Q4, and if I was to guess, we will see alt season begin right around the start of 2025. I believe Bitcoin probably will top out sometime in 2025. However, the majority of the gains made in altcoins will happen in 2025. I say this because most of the gains made on altcoins tend to be made in the last 20% of a bull market. It's like an exponential graph where the last 20% of the bull market accounts for roughly 80% of your gains in your portfolio. It's that simple 20-80 rule, and it does apply to altcoins and cryptocurrency. Obviously, people are freaking out right now because they're not looking that far into the future. They're just thinking about the month of September and how historically it is red. This is causing people to panic and sell their bags, thinking they're gonna buy back in at a lower price. And quite frankly, these people will be kicking themselves this time next year. Anyone exiting the crypto space right now, in my opinion, is not very educated. I think it's so blatantly obvious that Q4 is going to be a monumental time for cryptocurrency, and we do have multiple catalysts that align with this theory. Number one is the US presidential election. This is a hot topic in crypto, and my stance may be somewhat controversial. I personally think it does not matter who wins. I think the whole presidential election has added a ton of uncertainty to the market, and once the market finally has the ability to be certain on who the new US president is, the FUD will be flushed out and the market will rip higher. I know a lot of people in crypto want Trump to win, and I do think that would be bullish for cryptocurrency. However, to be honest, I think it would be bullish for cryptocurrency if Kamala wins too. Look at what happened when Joe Biden beat Trump last election. Crypto began to rocket. Is that because Joe Biden was a huge Bitcoin advocate? No, it was because there was no more uncertainty in the market and nothing for investors to freak out about. Once we are more certain about our path forward, then the market can go higher. Through all my time in stocks and crypto, I can tell you that uncertainty has the ability to drive markets down like no other. Even if the outcome is good, the markets want to be certain. Uncertainty just leads to people panic selling, and we're seeing a lot of that in the month of September. This also aligns with the possible rate cuts that we're seeing on September 17th. Jerome Powell will have to decide if we are in fact cutting rates, and if I was to guess, we're likely going to get a 0.25 basis point cut. That really isn't a controversial take. If the Fed decides to cut rates by more than that, investors will freak out and the market will dump because it looks like the economy is worse than they were pricing in. However, if the Fed does not cut rates, the market is also going to tank because it is factoring in a rate cut at this point. Despite this fact, people are still super uncertain what's going to happen to the Fed funds rate, and that is also causing people to panic sell. Basically, to sum it up, there's just a ton of uncertainty in the US economy and the US government, and this is causing people to either sell or sit on the sidelines until it's quote unquote safer. If you are an experienced investor, you know you kind of have to inverse the crowd at these points. When everyone is selling their bags and calling for doom and gloom, it's usually a good time to pick up some coins and continue to accumulate on your positions. That is exactly what I'm doing. I haven't sold any of my cryptocurrency, and again, I'm not a cryptocurrency trader. Everything I invest into with a 1 year long mindset, and with that, it gives me the ability to not really care what happens in the month of September. Obviously, Bitcoin can go lower, and I have some really shitty TA here that kind of shows a possible scenario of what I think could happen. Bitcoin is not looking strong right now. It looks like it wants to hit one more low. I think it is possible we wick down to like 47, 46K before going back in this channel and eventually breaking upwards. However, no one has a crystal ball. All we know for certain is that Bitcoin is just consolidating at these price levels. In fact, it's the same price that it was back in February of this year. And quite frankly, I don't think this is a bearish thing. The longer we consolidate here, the stronger the pump will be to the upside. And again, because we have so much historical data pointing to the fact that Q4 will be massive, I do think we're going to break this channel to the upside at some point, and I personally think it's still possible for Bitcoin to hit 80 or 100K in 2024. I know that's a bit of a stretch because we are headed into Q4 and we're currently sitting at $53,000. However, this market can change very rapidly, and a 10% green candle can print out of nowhere, all of a sudden sparking a much larger rally. I think it's completely idiotic to be shorting any cryptocurrency right now. It's super dangerous. You may be up because September is just going down. However, anyone shorting this market is absolutely playing with fire because at any second we can start ripping to the upside. Obviously, I think this is going to happen after we see rate cuts and after the US presidential election. That doesn't mean we have to continue dropping off a cliff until those events. However, I just don't think we're going to see monumental price action to the upside before those events happen. I also want to point out the DXY. This is a super boring chart that you need to be aware of if you're in cryptocurrency. It tracks the US dollar compared to a mixed basket of other global currencies, and you can see it's on a long-term downtrend ever since 1985. This is a trend that I don't really think is going to break. We continue to see the government print more and more US dollars, and as rate cuts happen and people have more access to free capital, I do think the DXY will continue downwards. This is inherently very bullish for Bitcoin because Bitcoin was created in response to the US dollar and the 2008 financial crisis. And if we look at what happened last cycle, the dollar started to tank downwards starting in June 2020, and it ended up bottoming out around June of 2021. If you just inverse that and bought Bitcoin when the dollar started to dump and sold Bitcoin when the US dollar started to consolidate, you would be up pretty substantially. The US dollar and Bitcoin trade inverse to one another, and so if we're holding Bitcoin, we want to see the dollar continue downwards. Now that we talked about the general cryptocurrency market, I need to talk real quickly about some of the drama on YouTube that's been happening. A couple weeks ago, I made a video talking about the evidence stacked against Crypto John and how it looks like he's not the genuine person that he portrays himself to be. Since then, there's been even more evidence stacked against him, and I really want my subscribers to watch both of these videos. Decide for yourself what you want to think on the matter. Again, I advise you trust no one. I think blindly trusting any crypto YouTuber is a recipe for disaster, and the whole reason I made that video was to try to help my subscribers. I do not want you falling victim to a pump and dump scheme, and I felt like I needed to make that video because Crypto John and I are bullish on some of these same altcoins, especially Kaspa, Turbo, and ARCBlock. We are both very bullish on these coins, and nothing has changed about that. I still think these are three great projects that will outperform this coming bull market. However, because Crypto John and I are both holding those altcoins, I didn't want it to look like I was associated with him whatsoever. That is why I made a video voicing my opinion on the matter. This is why I'm addressing it now. I do not want to be associated with Crypto John. He used to say good things about me in his Discord and people would watch my videos. However, I did not ask him to do that. I think he did that because I genuinely produce some good content, and now he's switched the narrative, calling me all sorts of nasty things in the Discord. Once again, I've never been in the Discord myself, but I have messaged people who have been members in his Discord, and so I do not have a first-hand account of what exactly happens in there, and that is why I felt like I needed to make a video saying that me and John are separate people. I really hope you have a good day out there. Stay safe, and peace out.